What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. What is a support in Overwatch? Well, surely it's one of the characters listed under the support category, right? Or is it? It may not be so simple, especially when we compare to how the term support works in other games, and how I would advocate it should work in Overwatch. Now, the very first thing we have to do is deconstruct the labeling system that Blizzard puts out for us. At the hero select screen, there's offense, defense, tank, and support. Now, there's a little bit of a problem with this, though, in that the Blizzard devs themselves have outwardly said that these labels don't really describe a hero in total, but instead are more of a ease of use, immediate entry into understanding the general playstyle and feel of a hero for a new player. So with that being the case, no matter how we define any of these terms, simply utilizing these roles don't really help us in labeling what characters do in Overwatch gameplay, or for that matter, describe what roles even are, or what an attribute of a hero is. If we compare this to a MOBA game, which of course it's important to know, Overwatch is heavily influenced by MOBAs, we can take a look at Dota 2. In the game, they have a heroes chart which breaks down the different classes. I know, lots of heroes in Dota, way more complicated, but very importantly, there isn't just categories, but subcategories within them. And here's the kicker, the important subcategories have cross-pollination within each category. So, with that being the case, although there is a strict definition of what a strength, agility, or intelligent hero means, even further than that, we have the disambiguation of carry, support, ranged melee, and then even more specific from that is actual individual playstyles that are relevant to Dota. Nuker would mean like burst damage. Disabler is going to have a lot of stuns and silences effects. Jungler is a lurky playstyle where you go farm off on your own. Escape are heroes that are very mobile, can get out of fights. Durable are characters that can stay in fights for a long time. Pushers can siege towers well, and initiators can get in on fights well by whatever means. Now, it's important to note each one of these concepts sort of sets up a Venn diagram among heroes where they share some attributes in one area, but don't in others. Now, a cool thing that we can do is apply this to Overwatch as well, which of course, if we do so, we're going to develop a much deeper understanding of what heroes actually do within their role in the game. Because of course the very basic generic labels that the game provides for us don't do that currently. Initiation is important in Overwatch, and that's something characters with shields like Winston or Reinhardt could do, but also in a way Sombra could do, because being able to stealthily get in the fight and EMP to start the fight is a powerful initiation tool as well. A very important tag that we've discussed on this channel before would be Duelist, where some characters are quite strong in 1v1s, but it isn't a particular attribute that is localized to a DPS tank or support. Winston is a good duelist, but Reinhardt kind of isn't because most of the time he just gets danced around, whereas Winston can trap you in his bubble and do a footsie battle and duel you 1v1. Soldier might be a great damage dealer, but not a great duelist because he isn't very flexible or have a consistent amount of burst damage, though he can win duels, he's not great at it. So I wouldn't give him that tag. And we can go on and on with these different types of ideas and label the entire cast, which I think if some app company or website designer wants to collaborate on this kind of idea to make a similar chart to how Dota does it for Overwatch, I think that's a great idea. And you can make this part of the in-game client. When the game first came out, many of you maybe haven't seen these videos that we made last year, but we said this at the time that the hero roles are wrong in a video, that they don't really guide you to an understanding about the heroes, and Blizzard confirmed that. They said, yes, of course they're not right. They're not meant to be indicative of what a hero can do because they're too complicated. So instead, the first entry that Blizzard presents to you about what the heroes are in Overwatch is more to just get your foot wet. It doesn't really present you with a dense understanding of the game. Blizzard kind of expects the community to do that by themselves, which is why videos like these, I think, are important. One couldn't be blamed for assuming that the support category definition should be restricted to just a few heroes, because of course the game tells us that. And one step further, I'm sure many Overwatch players aren't familiar with MOBA games actually, and might come from other shooters or other games in general that don't really define the term support, because in MOBA games, supports get kills all the time. So to say that a character that's a support gets kills doesn't really make a difference. So without a doubt, if we're trying to utilize the base categories that the game of Overwatch gives us they immediately prove to be unwieldy, and they have been since the start. And I definitely have in the past said like Symmetras probably shouldn't be there, should be in a different category builder altogether. But now I've even shifted my opinion to one that I think is even better, and that is to describe supports as characters that are defined by the utility they bring to their team, rather than, of course, the other two categories, which would be DPS or tank. A character like Zenyatta does way more damage per second than Sombra does, but we all agree that he's a support, right? Well, he is, but he's a damage-dealing support. He's barely a healing support. In fact, I would say Sombra is better at healing than Zen is. Because if you fight on a health pack, it's one of the best forms of pocketing that you can do. In a MOBA game, a hero like Sombra, who has low sustained damage, not really any burst, but a whole ton of utility abilities, would very obviously be a support, because as compared to Reaper or Soldier, their mechanic damage statistics are actually that great. That's what DPS comes from, of course, damage per second. A character that can physically output a lot of damage is defined by that. A character like Sombra, even when aiming her weapon perfectly, doesn't output nearly as much damage as those other characters. Now, can Sombra get a kill? Of course she can. But does she do so by utilizing actual damage per second? Or does she do so by utilizing her flanking maneuvers, pouncing targets, or isolating them with hacks, especially with Tracer and Winston? On the gameplay showing on screen, we struggled to take point 2 when I was on Lucio, but switching to Sombra, I was able to outplay the enemy Tracer, who before that was stalling out the point constantly. She'd always come back, harass our healers, kill them, and with the respawn advantage that the enemy had, they were able to keep sustaining the point. Well, Sombra silences those things. It's a silence ability, and in some ways, it's better than damage. It wasn't that case when Sombra first came out, of course. It was the other way around, but now, with heroes entering the meta, as well as Sombra getting buffed, that supportive playstyle can net you a kill. But that doesn't mean Sombra is a DPS, even if she is a duelist, because she definitely is a duelist. That's the weird thing, right? These keyword tags can get applied to different characters in different ways that might not seem very intuitive. Soldier is a DPS without a doubt, but is not a very good duelist, whereas Sombra is a great duelist, not a great DPS. Overwatch is kind of complicated, but in ways it's not, right? You don't necessarily need a damage dealer in the damage dealer slot, because if the enemy has a lot of shielding abilities and mobility stall, using a character like Sombra can win battles as if she were a DPS, because a hack can be more valuable than damage. It's just the problem that if you call a character like Sombra a damage dealer, well, what does that mean for characters that have nothing else in their kit but just damage, basically? Widow, Hanzo, Reaper, Soldier are mainly just damage dealers, but there's the caveat that every character in Overwatch has a little bit of a hybrid nature to them. So with that being the case, you can see Soldier be played from the support position, but I wouldn't go as far as they say that he's a support, but pro teams have done this, where they might drop out one of their support slots and instead put a Soldier there because he gives some team healing, right? You can think of every hero in Overwatch as sort of a list of attributes, maybe like from 1 to 5, like you're building a Fallout character or something. Like an RPG style. I mean, that's where MOBAs come from, of course, is from real-time strategy games, which were developed from RPG games and D&D and all that. Damage statistics, all of that goes all the way back to those games. And we can think about Overwatch characters in this way as well. And with that being the case, Soldier would have more points in the DPS categories and just a smidgely point in the supportive healing category. Healing, of course, should be a subcategory of support in general, because support means utility. So, with all that being the case, you can play Torb, Mei, Sombra in the DPS category, but what do they really bring to the team? Far more of a hybrid supportive nature, and with that being the case, you might start to see crazy ideas, like I said in one of my previous videos, a character like Mei in the supportive slot. Why? Well, because the utility that she brings with freezing a D.Va mech or splitting the enemy team can add to the fight in a way that can structure the engagement so that you don't need to lean on having 2 healers to sustain the fight. What we're starting to get into in Overwatch is this multifaceted, complex approach to team compositions that already exists in MOBA games. In MOBA games, there isn't a necessity necessarily to have a healer, because you can set up multiple types of team comps that do very different things. depending on which win condition you want to play for. I won't get too much in depth in it, of course, but most people know how a MOBA game works. There's 3 lanes, you kill the towers, and then eventually push your lane all the way to the end and win. Well, some teams are better at teamfight brawling, and other teams might be better at sieging towers, and other teams might be better at splitting up and jungling. Team comps in Overwatch are starting to feel like that as well, where if you're dealing with a problem, like the enemy team is killing your normal 2 support backline, you can swap out one of those supports for a Sombra or a Torb who can defend themselves and provide some supportive utility otherwise. This is already the case, I think, in the community where everyone just accepts Symmetra to be a support. But we shouldn't just do that because Blizzard put her in the supportive category, because as Blizzard said themselves, that Sombra or Symmetra can be in different categories, and the category system isn't really indicative of much right now. I mean, are you still following those little tooltips that pop up on the right side? Too many tanks, too many healers, too many whatever. Does that thing really understand the meta as it changes from season to season? It hasn't changed yet. That thing has always been the same. So we could go down the line and talk about just about every character in this category, and even get more in depth, of course. There's a bunch of DPS characters that some are good at pickoff, some are good at duels, some are good at sustain. There's multiple tags that we could put in each category, but it's important to realize that there are so many different options available to you. You're going to have a lessened command of the game if you simply look at the categories as they're laid out for new players and expect that to work as you get deeper into the game in terms of complexity. So we can make our own terms. Pro players have already been doing this, and it'll become the norm before long, of course. Hybrid classes like Sombra, Mei, Torb, Symmetra, who have really complex utility that they add to the team, can fit either the flex role, sometimes the DPS role necessarily, sometimes a support. It depends on the context of the situation and what you're going up against. So I hope this video helped explain and sort of clarify that previous video that I did that I think many people got confused by. So if it did and it helped strengthen your understanding of Overwatch, please hit the like button. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe because we upload each and every day. So you're gonna wanna hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Linked in the description, you can check out our Twitter page and our Discord server where you can find the support main of your dreams. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.